it? You want me to? Yeah.
Thanks, Ray and David. And I suppose I'd like to pick up from where David left off, which is that it's great to have Ray in Birmingham, and it's been wonderful for me to read the book and begin to kind of understand a little bit more about the background from where Ray's coming, because many of us are really grateful here in Birmingham and wider, because of course the Methodist district that Ray works for is much wider than just Birmingham, goes right down to Malvern and I don't know, all sorts of different places, and we're really grateful for having Ray here. But you can get to know somebody and you get to work with somebody and you hear different speeches that they make and you hear different stories and stuff, but then to get a bit more of the context is great. And the book is a story, as Ray said, it's a story of his life, and I think that the heart of the story is this Ramadan diary that he gives us in the middle of it, which is fairly kind of raw and unexpurgated, and has lovely little comments like, took Nelly for a walk. You know, this is coming from a vicar, you know, is it his curate, is it church organist, you know, who's Nelly? No explanation. So it's sort of bits like that, with real reflections about, you know, about going to an iftar and meeting people and the warmth of that, but then really engaging during that Ramadan with reading the Quran every day, and reading some of the really difficult bits of the Quran and really engaging with them and what does that say. So in some ways it's very much a kind of a Ray book, and you can see the locks. At one point he has to. Well, I don't think you mention it, do you? But I think Ferdowes mentions it, that he has to kind of cover them up when he goes into a shrine.
Say those.
Yeah, that's right. So he mentions it. Yeah, in case because people kind of looking at it weirdly or something, or maybe they weren't. But so in a sense, there's a danger in it that we look at the book and we say, oh, that's Ray. That's nice. That's Ray with his locks or not, you know, and we kind of. You know, it's a nice read or whatever, we can push it aside. I think the issue for me is, what does it actually have to say about authentic encounter and engagement? What does it have to say to all of us? And if we just say, oh, that's nice, Ray, then we've kind of missed it, really. Because, of course, most of us won't have those kind of Ramadan reflections. We won't be writing that journal in that same way. But the issue is, how do we engage? And I think for me it's not just about the whole Islam thing, it's Muslim-Christian relations. Actually it's really about how authentically Christian is this in any context. It's about what do you do as a Christian very explicitly with the context that you find yourself in. And for Ray that was All Hallows in Hyde Park in Leeds, in a context post 9/11. So, but in a sense you could say, well then how do you do that with any context? And clearly what Ray does, and I think this is what is kind of so uncomfortable about it but so powerful about it, is he goes basically as far as you possibly can. And you think, is he going to go further? And he does. You know, but at the same time he's saying, how then far do I go back in my own tradition at the same time? So he's rolling out his prayer mat, he's joining in, he's kind of looking a bit like a Muslim at points, and in fact he then starts talking a lot about Islam with a small I rather than a capital I, which of course the Arabic doesn't do. But Ray does, and is not the first person to do it. But to say, what does it mean to engage with real Islam as submission to God in a very radical way? And he just pushes it and pushes it and pushes it. But then, the next moment, you got reams of Bible. It's like it would have been quite a lot shorter if you hadn't crammed most of the Bible in there. Pages of James and pages of Paul and pages of this and that, and you think, well, he's actually warning you, this is what you get. But that's part part of it. It's saying, how does, because this is about going in both directions at once. And I guess I would say that's what's been challenging to me about it, because that's really what Christian mission, I think, is really all about, and has always been about. It's always been a two-way thread, whether it's in biblical terms or whether it's history of authentic Christian mission down the ages. It's always been the kind of the blowback, the theological blowback of engaging at a deep level. What does that then do to me, to my own, the way I read the Bible, to my own faith? And I think that's for me the essential challenge, or one of the essential challenges. I think the other thing I would say, which is a similar thing in a way, is that in a world where often it's about activists who get involved and you don't really do a lot of thinking and praying, but just get completely caught up in the action, or people who just do a lot of praying and wring their hands. It's about bringing these two together as well. So it's very much about action and contemplation and the spirituality of it. And hardly a page goes by without prayer. And I think that's also what's very powerful. That this is not just about how to do it, but it's about what it means to pray into an engagement like this. And it's great, and Ray mentions it in the book as well, but how Salma and others have then engaged with that in their reflection, because you don't just get Ray in this book, you get quite substantial bits of other people as well, Annie and Salma and other people as well, reflecting on the journey that they've been a part of from their own perspectives. And I think more and more as I go on, I'm finding this is driving me back to my knees and back to silence and back to saying, well, what is God doing in this? What is God doing in it for us, and what is God doing in it for the church and more widely for Muslims and Christians and all sorts of other people together? So I don't think I want to say really a lot more than that about the book, except to say, do read it. I think it is a really important book, and it's a book which, buy it for yourself, but also give it away. It's a really good book to give to people and just say, well, what do you think of this? And not just Muslims or Christians, but people from it's a real witness about what faith does, and I think that there are uncomfortable bits in it which are really good for all sorts of people to hear about. I'd love to take up with some of my Muslim friends here and elsewhere. What do you think of the way that Ray, in a sense, reinterprets Islam? I think what he's doing, a little bit like Kenneth Cragg, is saying, well, Islam is out there. It has never claimed to be a little internal thing. So it's proclaimed from the rooftops and the minarets. Therefore, it's incumbent upon everybody to give a response. So it's not. So a response is a legitimate thing to do. That's what Cragg argues in The Call of the Minaret, and that's really what Ray is saying. All right, okay. So Islam is out there. So how do I then really engage with that? And part of that, therefore, means a kind of a reinterpretation of it in Christian terms, which is, I imagine, which is not what we normally do. We normally say, oh well, Muslims, you get to define your own Islam, and we'll define our own Christianity. But it's a risky thing when you move beyond that. And of course, that's a right thing to do in certain circumstances. But if we're going to engage, then we've also got to get beyond that. And there's very few books which do that. I think this is one of them. So I would encourage you, read it, give it away, and and let's talk about it. Let's get a conversation going about some of the issues which Ray brings up, in order that we can then move a little bit deeper. And I will be doing that with Ray and with others. But I hope it's much wider than a little circle. So it really is up to us to make sure that table is empty at the end.